It's not all sunshine rainbows everywhere for folks from the United States. For one reason or the other, not all places will roll out the cleanest welcome mat for you.
No.
In other places, the welcoming mat might be very dusty. If you're surprised, there is no need to be, because it's obvious some areas can have a chilly air than others. Today, we'll talk about the 10 countries that Americans fear visiting most. Hey, this is Just Know It 254. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel. I promise you will have the best videos and I will make them so interesting for you to watch and learn. Please subscribe. Number 10. Myanmar. Starting with Myanmar, as of 2024, the Southeast Asian nation boasts a population of just under 55 million people. Now, Myanmar isn't exactly handing out welcome drinks to Americans, and there's a bit of history and current events to blame for that. Following the military coup in February 2021, the country has been in a state of turmoil, with civil unrest and armed conflict becoming part of daily life. For Americans thinking of visiting, it's a maze of visa applications and warnings. The U.S. government advises against travel to Burma due to these ongoing issues, including arbitrary enforcement of local laws and limited healthcare resources. Imagine needing a visa that takes a minimum of 3 working days to process, only to land in a place where you're advised not to travel. Plus, there's the whole deal with the U.S. imposing sanctions on Myanmar, which doesn't exactly make American tourists popular guests at the party. Number 9. Yemen. Now, let's hop over to Yemen, a country with a population estimated to be around 35 million. Yemen is another spot where Americans might find the welcoming mat a bit dusty. The country has been embroiled in a devastating conflict since 2015, leading to a massive humanitarian crisis. For Americans, the idea of visiting Yemen is met with stern warnings about civil unrest, terrorism, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The U.S. State Department couldn't be clearer with its do not travel advisory. Getting a visa as an American? Good luck. Yemen's strict visa policies, coupled with the country's instability, make it nearly impossible for casual tourism. And even if you did manage to get in, the hostility towards Americans due to perceived involvement in the conflict and drone strikes makes it a less than ideal vacation spot. Number 8. Somalia. Next up is Somalia, a country with a population of about 18 million people. Now, here's where things get a bit dicey for Americans. The genesis of the frosty reception can be traced back to various factors, including political instability and security concerns. In May 2022, President Joe Biden approved the redeployment of U.S. soldiers to combat the Al-Shabaab insurgents, a move that, while strategic from a defense standpoint, doesn't exactly make American tourists the most popular guests at the party. The visa process is very stringent. Number 7. Venezuela. Venezuela, home to over 29 million people. The relationship between the U.S. and Venezuela has been, to put it mildly, strained. Economic sanctions, political spats, and a general air of mistrust have made Venezuela a challenging destination for Americans. As of August 2023, the economic situation has driven over 7.7 million people to leave the country, proof of the dire circumstances many Venezuelans face. For Americans looking to visit, the visa process is a puzzle of its own. It's not just about filling out forms. It's about navigating an inherently skeptical system, if not outright hostile, towards Americans. Once inside, the high cost of living and high tension can make day-to-day interactions feel like walking on eggshells. If you've watched this video up to this point, it means you like it. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell to get updated whenever we upload a new video. Number 6. Libya. Libya is a country that's been through more plot twists than a season of Game of Thrones. As of 2024, Libya boasts a population of about 7 million people. Now, why might an American passport not be the golden ticket here? Well, it's a cocktail of factors. The U.S. Department of State currently has a do not travel advisory for Libya due to a variety of dangers including crime, terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The relationship between the U.S. and Libya has been a roller coaster, especially after the 2012 attack on the U.S. mission in Benghazi. This event was a turning point, leading to heightened security concerns and making Libya a tough cookie for American travelers. The visa process is super tough. Americans looking to explore Libya face stringent visa requirements, and the fact that the Libyan government doesn't allow entry to passports bearing Israeli stamps adds another layer of complexity. Number 5. Syria. Syria is a country with a rich culture and history. Sadly, it's been overshadowed by conflict in recent years. With a population grappling with the realities of civil war, Syria is another spot where Americans might find the welcome mat rolled up. The reasons? Similar to Libya, but dial up the intensity, the U.S. has slapped a level 4 travel advisory on Syria, citing risks of terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, and armed conflict. The Syrian government's stance towards Americans is hostile, thanks to a complicated geopolitical chess game involving sanctions, military actions, and diplomatic standoffs. The visa process for Americans wanting to step into Syria is like finding a needle in a haystack. Number 4. Afghanistan. When we talk about countries where Americans might not roll out the welcome mat, Afghanistan tops many lists, and for so many reasons. With a population of about 44 million, this country has been a focal point of geopolitical tensions for decades. Now, why might an American get the cold shoulder in Afghanistan? For starters, the U.S. Department of State currently recommends that U.S. citizens do not travel to Afghanistan due to terrorism, risk of wrongful detention, kidnapping, and crime. It's like the country is saying, visit at your own risk. But with a tone that strongly suggests, please don't, the advisory isn't just for show. It's backed by a grim reality where multiple terrorist groups are active and Americans are prime targets for kidnapping and wrongful detentions. Imagine planning a trip only to find out you're on the most wanted list for a group you've never even heard of. While U.S. citizens must have a valid passport and Afghan visa to enter and exit, those arriving without a valid visa face deportation or confiscation of their passport and heavy fines. Number 3. Iraq. Iraq, with a population hovering around 47 million people, has had a tumultuous relationship with the United States, to say the least. It all began with the 2003 U.S.-led invasion, under the pretext of weapons of mass destruction. Since then, the narrative between the two nations has been complicated. Why aren't Americans welcome? First off, the visa process. It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. Americans can indeed get visas on arrival at airports, but to get an exit stamp in your passport can be super tricky. The visa application itself is a marathon, not a sprint. It normally takes around 12 working days to process. It's less welcome to Iraq, and more prove why we should let you in. Number 2, Iran. Iran, with a population hovering around 89 million souls, is a land of ancient history, breathtaking landscapes, and, well, complicated relations with the United States. The genesis of the frosty reception Americans might encounter dates back to the 1979 Iran hostage crisis. Back then, a group of Iranian students took over the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, leading to a 444-day standoff. Fast forward to today, and the situation hasn't thawed much. The U.S. State Department slaps a level 4 travel advisory on Iran, which is basically their way of saying, think twice before packing your bags for Tehran. But why such stern advice? For starters, there's the risk of terrorism, civil unrest, and, most notably, the arbitrary arrest and detention of U.S. citizens. In fact, it's not uncommon for Americans, especially those holding dual nationality, to find themselves behind bars on charges ranging from espionage to posing a threat to national security. Now let's talk visas, because getting to Iran as an American is no walk in the park. If you're from the U.S., expect to wait anywhere from 1 to 3 months just to hear back on your visa application. And that's before you even step foot in the embassy, which can take from a few days to 2 weeks of waiting, depending on how the stars align. Number 1. North Korea. North Korea, officially known as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK, has a population hovering around 25 million people. This country is like that one neighbor who doesn't come out to the block parties, but watches everything from their window. The relationship between the U.S. and North Korea has been chaotic, to say the least. With decades of political tensions, nuclear threats, and a war that technically hasn't ended since an armistice was signed in 1993. Now, onto the juicy bits. Why are Americans not exactly welcomed with open arms in North Korea? For starters, the U.S. government strongly advises against travel to North Korea due to the serious risk of arrest and long-term detention. Getting into North Korea isn't a walk in the park either. Since September 1st, 2017, the US has banned its citizens from using their passports to enter North Korea, except under very specific circumstances. That will be all in this video. Stay safe, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for entertaining and informative content. Thanks for tuning in, and see you in the next one.